We now welcome our next panel, our final session of the afternoon. So we are getting there, folks. Please bear with us because we have decided to round off the day with an absolutely fascinating exploration of a lot of the evolution and a lot of the change that Lev and Jane were talking about. Our next panel is looking at indie to empire, growing your game through new monetization models. So I suspect NFT and blockchain may come up at this point. And our host for this session is Kay from Walking Squid. Good afternoon, Kay. How are you?
Hi, Brian. I'm terrific. Thank you.
Excellent. I'm very, very pleased to hear it. So the panel will all be jumping in very, very briefly. So thank you all very much indeed for joining us. It has been an absolutely amazing afternoon, a really interesting track, but I will be honest, I am looking forward to this one so much. I come from a game development background, as you can tell from the white. I've been doing it for a while, and to say that in my own particular corner of the world, there is some skepticism about the new monetization models, revenue streams, is putting it mildly. So I will be making notes and beating my colleagues and peers around the head and face with them as we continue. So the last panel of the day, Kay, are you ready to rock and roll? Are we all good?
Well, you set the expectations pretty high, Brian. Thank you.
But I like to end on a
we do have a absolutely stellar panel of experts, and I'm looking forward to learn a lot as well.
Excellent.
So yes.
In that case, I will slide gracefully out into the ether and let you guys get on with the introductions. Thanks, folks. I will speak to you at the end.
Thanks, Brian. Hello, everyone. Hello to my panelists. I'm very happy to be here with you. Hello to everyone in the audience. I also was very excited reading the headline when this got brought to me. I have an absolutely stellar panel of a very diverse crowd looking at our topic from all kinds of different angles. Let's dive right in. I always like to start with a very quick round of introductions. I let everybody take care of that themselves and allow me to briefly start with me. My name is Kai. Until recently, I actually managed a game studio on Paladin here in the Netherlands. Absolutely amazing team, doing great stuff. I'm in games for quite a while, and this is one of the reasons why I still enjoy doing it so much, talking to some very smart, intelligent people that know what they do. With that, I'm going to go clockwise around my screen in the order that you appear here. David, please tell us who you are and what you do.
Thanks, and I hope we live up to the expectations that you and your colleague have set for us.
Right there.
It's a high bar. We'll do our best. My name's David Phillipson. I am the CEO and co-founder of a business called Dataseat. Dataseat, we specialize in working with gaming companies to help them in-house their programmatic UA campaigns, retargeting campaigns, and cross-promo. So we're very much involved in the demand side, working with gaming companies. Previously to Dataseat, I founded the first MMP called Addex Tracking. Those of you that are old enough as me, that was 10 years ago when the first MMP was out there. We sold that to a business called Criteo, and at Criteo we built their in-app retargeting business. So my expertise is very much on the ad tech demand side, programmatic attribution, working with gaming companies, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks so much, David. Andrei, you are next on my screen. Please tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, hi, everybody. Very nice to meet you all. My name is Andrei. I work at Mamboo Games, which is a Belarusian hyper-casual publisher and developer. My job there is to overview the monetization of our business. And I've been working in monetization for 3 years now. So my point of view here is that I've been working from the publisher side, and I think I know pretty much everything about how to build a good waterfall and set it up for the mobile game.
Cool. Thank you so much, Andrei. Riley, another developer and self-publishing view, I think. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Yes, hello, and thank you for having me. So I'm Riley, I'm the CEO of Umami Games. I'm also a co-founder, and we make hyper-casual mobile games. We have worked with publishers for a long time, and in early this year, we made ABC Runner, which have a bit more than 10 million downloads. And since we've been through that journey, we've been wanting to self-publish. So that's the plan in the beginning of the next year. I guess that's my point of view as a developer, but going towards self-publishing, so having to deal with mediation and UA and waterfalls and everything on our own.
Cool. Thank you so much, Riley. Christian, you're next. And I think there was some stuff that brought you in the news lately. So curious to see, hear who you are and what you do.
Yeah, hello. No, great to be here. So I'm Christian, CEO of AudioMob, and what we do is we provide non-intrusive audio ads in games, so a player can listen to an audio ad while being monetized rather than being blocked by a video. And developers tend to use our formats interchangeably. What we see is 1,000% increase in click-through engagement. We recently raised a $14 million round at $110 million valuation. So everyone is very happy right now on the team. It's going to be a great Christmas. Thank you. And before AudioMob, I was a strategist at Google and a science partner at Facebook. And in my spare time, I made my own hyper-casual games and my own hip hop and jazz music, chilled out music. And I streamed that into the games I was making. Combined with the advertising expertise, that's what led to the creation of AudioMob with my co-founder, Wilfred.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Christian. And last but certainly not least, Yoni, tell us who you are and what you do.
Nice to meet you guys. And thank you, Kai. Yeah, my name is Yoni Markovizky. I am G Marketplace at Fyber. Fyber has multiple monetization solutions for publishers. And Marketplace is one of them. We have the mediation platform and offer wall. My main job is basically connecting supply and demand, helping our developers to monetize and improve their performance and work with our DSPs and advertisers to maximize their spending on our platform. I started 7 years ago at a company called Interactive. We got acquired by Fyber back in 2016. 6 months ago, we got acquired by Digital Turbine. And yeah, this is kind of the briefly explanation on myself. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, everybody. We had most of you. I had the opportunity to introduce myself because literally this panel, I didn't meet any of you before, which is very strange. So let's kick this off. I usually start with a little bit of a very small paragraph of introduction, and the topic that we have today is certainly a huge one. Monetization from rags to riches. There's a lot in there, but I was thinking for the longest time, and that certainly speaks to me being ancient at least in age. Premium was the one and only way to sell games, right? We had boxes, we put them on a shelf, and there was a price, and that went down over time, but you sold it. Then came free to play and literally changed everything, not just how games are monetizing, but also it really drastically increased the potential for the audience that we can address as a games industry, accessibility of games, and in turn, luckily enough, also the revenue potential. So that was really a game changer. Over the last decade, free-to-play innovated around, in-app purchases, ad-based revenue, subscriptions, and so on. Most recently, subscription platforms saw a renaissance across pretty much all platforms, from PC to console to mobile. Services like Apple Arcade, Google Play Pass, PlayStation Plus, and Xbox Game Pass, just to name a few. So as a developer, choosing that right monetization strategy and how you want to actually make money with your game, if you then choose to do so, is critical for the commercial success, at least, of your game. And the question is, how do you plan for it? How do you navigate that jungle? And what I want to ask you is, was that fundamental choice really between premium and free to play and all the different shades of monetization and gray that are there? What would your most important question be in return when somebody asks you, which model should I choose? Should I do premium or should I do free to play? What would you ask them to give a better answer? And I'm going to start with the two people closest to the development. So Riley, if you can kick us off on that one, that'd be awesome.
Okay, yeah, pressure, right? No, but I think my answer or question would be, how is the market share? Like if you take the entire mobile market as a whole, at least now we make mobile games, right? So from my perspective, it would be on mobile. But how many percent is translated with like premium game versus free to play? Because my understanding is that it's highly towards the free to play. So for us, it's not even really a question for us. We're definitely free to play.
Yeah, I think and that's probably the answer that comes a lot. But Andrei, as a publisher in that space as well, is that pretty much how you look at it too, or is there something else to be said about doing premium on mobile?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Riley in terms that as most of the games and especially hyper casual games are being free to play, so it's not really a question that is rising before me as a hyper casual publisher. But what would I like to add here is that publishing your game as a premium game where you have your potential user to actually buy it, it's sort of a commitment that a person should make before seeing the product. So you should be very, very certain that the quality of the product is up to this price for the user to make this decision. And with the free-to-play, this threshold of starting to play is much lower, and you give a chance for the users to actually try your game before deciding whether they want to pay for it.
Yeah, I think that was one of the big game changers that came along, was that kind of monetization for sure. In the past, free-to-play games monetized primarily through single methods like AIP or ads. I think in hyper casual, I assume that it's mostly still ad driven and slowly going towards other monetization options. But I think the tenor is that the trend is going towards more hybrid models, or utilizing all tools really in that whole monetization tool chest that form the right mix for your game, right? What are the most important aspects that I have to understand as a developer about what model of monetization to choose and apply to my game? Is there something like a universal truth, or at least some basic tips that you would have for anyone out there that is still very early on? David, you have a pretty much 360.
You can see on the tip of my tongue. One of the things I love about our industry is, particularly in gaming, is there aren't huge barriers to entry. So there are so many new entrants, and there's so much, and which causes so much innovation. And there's no shame in analyzing and spending a long time, if you're at the early stage of your business, analyzing what your competitors are doing. So if you know that you want this cool, kind of an RPG game, or you're in hyper casual, I would spend a long time in, finding who are your competitors that you admire the most, and then look at what are they doing. You can get all of these other software tools at the moment that, Apptopia, or all these other software tools that will tell you what SDKs are in your competitors' apps. That if you're successful, they're going to be doing it to you. So although I think any gaming company that's starting off has got to focus on good IP, focus all of your efforts on creating cool games that consumers are going to love. That's got to be, priority number one. And I think most people will agree and actually think what Riley did, is the right thing, create cool games and then work with the publishing company initially so they can actually spend their dollars and their expertise because to try and create an awesome game on day one and be brilliant at marketing and automation is tricky. So start with creating cool content, work with the publishing house, and then spend that time trying to master looking at what other successful companies have done. And it's not rocket science, but you'll get there. But trying to do both at the same time is tricky. So work on the IP and the content first.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Actually, David, we got a question. If you have any sources to point people to get that info about the competition, that would be appreciated.
I mentioned some towards the end. I'll try and get a brainstorm for my colleagues.
Fantastic.
But and it's not just gaming companies, by the way.
Yeah.
And tech companies can license the same tools because you want to know, your customers, what SDKs they're using, your competitors. There are several of these apps that you can see. What SDKs a cool app has got in there, I'll try and get some names before the end of this call. Yeah.
So since monetization really, at least in my humble opinion, ties in very, very closely to the actual game design nowadays, and especially in genres like hyper casual, I think it's absolutely critical. Where do you start? Like maybe Riley and Andrei, a question for you as well is, do you start thinking about the game first, or do you start thinking about monetization first? Do you look at your competitors? I think that's a really good tip. And see, hey, this seems to be really working really well. Maybe we build something around it. Or where does it start, or is it all at once?
I feel like for us, it changed a bit from like post IDFA to now, whereas before we thought more on only core concepts as almost the only thing, because we could also produce them so fast. So do you want to, so back then we didn't think so much about the depth to begin with, because if you churn out a new prototype in a week, then it's almost faster just testing it, right? Where I feel like today we do think a bit more about the monetization as well. And also in general, think that the design and the monetization becomes better if you think at it from the beginning, because then like it interrelates better than we all, I think, as developers or designers knows how it is to add something on. It never really becomes as good as if it like intertwined from the beginning. And I just agree with the whole looking at competitors. We actually also do the same for like the creatives, also have spy tools, I guess you can call them, where you can see, oh, so we're making a game about something specific here, idle game about cooking. Which ads have other idle games about cooking done, right? Or other similar games. Just agree with David.
Yeah. Cool. From your perspective, Yoni, is this something where developers and teams can actually start talking to platforms early on to maybe gain a little bit more intelligence from a practical point of view, or is that something that they kind of have to figure out themselves?
No, absolutely. I think that smart developers, and they don't have to be big, right? I mean, will try to get as much as information as they can, obviously from colleagues, but especially from networks, from mediation platforms, to understand better about the setup, understand better about pricing, how to price users in specific geos or specific formats. And I would like to relate to what David mentioned. Yeah, like try to take something as a base, and then on top of that, constantly try to A/B test, try new things, and try to compare it to the existing revenues and try to push for incrementality. So I think that, try to get as much as information from the market, but your game, your product will probably going to be a little bit different. So you will have to optimize it constantly. And that has to be done by A/B testing of your mediation platform, of your demand partner. So that's going to be my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, Cool. So I want to dig a little bit deeper into ad-based monetization. There's been a lot of talk around the recent changes in, the ecosystem from Apple's side as well. And I don't want to get too deep into that. That's a completely separate topic. But in-app advertising, certainly still is a vital monetization method in the mix for sure. For some games more, for some games less. And I know this is a big question, but I would love to hear what your opinion is on where is that going in the next 12 months. We've seen a little bit of a dip in that, at least on iOS for sure. But yeah, where do you see it developing, over the next 4 quarters? And I want to start with Christian on that one, because you're obviously one of the experts that are deep into that.
Yeah, so I guess a little bit of my background to contextualize the answer. So before AudioMob, science partner at Facebook, all we were doing is coding tests to measure incrementality. What is incrementality? What is that extra additional revenue that I can generate in my product without cannibalizing pre-existing revenue? So that's the core of what this answer is going to entail. And all the most sophisticated developers. I was on a panel with MiniClip yesterday that have in-app monetization solutions now, in display monetization solutions. It's all about figuring out where are these new incremental sources going to come from without damaging my video ad revenue, my IAP revenue. Now, again, if I was to ask everyone here if they knew anyone that liked video ads, you might struggle. However, video ads are an amazing source of revenue. And it's not a case of trying to replace video ad revenue. It's trying to figure out where are these new products, these monetization products that I can add that won't damage the video ad revenue, but can work with video ad revenue and IAP revenue in order to generate incremental revenue. And what we're seeing across whether it's AudioMob or any of the other in-display monetization formats, it is providing incremental revenue, i.e. advertising revenue that has been spent in the game from these brand advertisers or performance advertisers that isn't blocking the primary motive of the user, which is to play the game or use the app. And we're seeing this in terms of developers now releasing their case studies, displaying this incremental revenue. And we're also seeing it in the investment market as well. Many investors now shifting their capital toward these kinds of companies like AudioMob. So where I see this going in the next 12 months is that there actually is going to be an explosion in the amount of developers that adopt this solution and the growth of most of the in-display monetization companies, as well as the non-intrusive companies such as with AudioMob. And we're also seeing brands increase their ad dollars into these kinds of formats as well.
Yeah, interesting. What's a good way to stay on top of all of this? Because there's obviously a lot going on, right? For somebody out there that's building a new game, there's a lot to digest and there's a lot to keep up on an everyday basis, right? Does any of you have a good tip on how to actually do that, unless you have the luxury of somebody that actually dedicated to that in a team, which in most of the younger teams and startups might not be the case, right? Any specific source, anything that you suggest to really have an eye on, unique innovations that might bubble up, something like that. Just going around in my order here, David. Anything that you can give us a hot tip?
I will step back philosophically a little bit. I started my first mobile ad tech business 10 years ago, and I knew nothing about mobile ad tech. I knew nothing. I just said, I want to be in that industry. And it was early enough that actually there weren't any experts around, so it was quite easy to become an expert quickly. But my point is, do not fear, learning a shit ton of information. It's not rocket science. Have some trusted partners. There are people here that want to help you drive you away, drive new users, monetize, help you earn money. Now, you need to caveat all of it that everyone's trying to sell you something and make some money themselves. But you could speak to Dataseat, to Fyber, to AudioMob, and you'll learn a lot of information. So don't find it intimidating. Attend, Pocket Gamer. Make notes about who all of the kind of major partners and who the up and comings are, and arrange calls with them. And don't take everything with a pinch of salt that people are trying to sell you stuff, but they wouldn't be successful in raising money or working with all the clients they are unless they had something very valuable to share with you and for you to learn. So I would just if you've been gaming first and you've got great content and then you're going to the publishing world, look at what other people are doing, attend conferences like this, join Mobile Dev Memo Slack group, listen to all the mobile user acquisition show and the Pocket Gamer podcasts, and within 6 months you're going to be an expert. That's all I'd say.
That's a great advice for sure. Yeah, Yoni, I saw you nodding approvingly.
No, I have nothing to add to that. I mean, Mobile Dev Memo, Slack channel, be direct. I think that David nailed it. Nothing to add here.
Cool. Riley, Andrei, from a developer perspective?
Yeah, I would just add to also not be afraid to talk to other developers and not be scared to talk to your partners from the ad networks side, because it's they have a lot to share actually, and as soon as you start talking to them, you will see that the community is growing around you, and this will be a very good way for everybody in this community to learn. And as an example, I have to mention the Telegram chat that's been forming for the last 3 years on the ad monetization, and it has I think about 2,000 people in there right now, and I think it's been very, very useful for the beginner developers in the CIS area at least. So yeah, start your chats, talk to colleagues and talk to your partners.
I think that's good advice in general, no matter what area of development or publishing you're looking at, right? Your peers are your most valuable source of information in events like this, certainly for sure. I have a question, and it might sound silly to you guys, but there's a lot of different types of ads, right? We got banner ads, we got playables, we got interstitials, we got native, we got iConnects, we got offer walls, rewarded videos. Now we got audio as well. There's so much to choose from. When I develop my game and I think about a design and I try to put this all together, is there one of them, again, there might be a silly question, that is absolutely critical must-have, or is it really depending on what is the game and how you want to put it all together? But I'm curious, is there one that you would always throw in the mix, or maybe it's all of them, or maybe not? Anybody likes to pick up on that one? I want to know your secrets.
Yeah, if I may, I would recommend always considering rewarded videos for your game, whatever it is, because this is a great way to give extra value for your users by not sacrificing the retention. So number one, definitely rewarded videos. All of the other ad formats, I would say that you have to consider regarding the genre that you're entering, the session lengths and all of this stuff. Either it's portrait mode or so. There is a lot of variables in there, but always consider rewarded videos first, and it may even help your game even become better in terms of product metrics.
Anybody else? Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree that rewarded videos are super important, but I think for us in hyper casual, also interstitials have a lot of value. And also, I think the way I see it with the mobile market and the hyper casual that's turning a little hybrid, as you said as well, it's also super interesting with the in-app purchases. like light in-app purchases in hybrid casual, and how far can you stretch it? I think it will depend a bit on, or from what we've seen so far with the genre, right? But I think it's a very interesting development of monetization models in general.
I will add, Kai, that I've seen over the years a lot of developers that started with a rewarded video and then consider adding interstitials, or they had interstitials and thought about adding banners. And again, it brings me back to running tests to determine what drives better ROI, look at churn rate, take a look at also the reaction of users to these new formats. So it's really about trying to optimize, trying to push the ARPDAU, the revenue per user, as up as possible. And yeah, don't be afraid to make changes, take a small number of user, small percentage, and try to optimize and try to find the right formula to generate more revenues.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is still fascinating to me, the breadth and width and depth of the tools that we have nowadays to actually gauge these things, right? There's instant feedback on all of this, and I can highly agree, like this is what should be done. Brian, your appearance means something.
It does. It means we're very nearly done for the day. It's let joy be unconfined and the bells ring out. Thank you all so much. This is a topic that I've seen done really poorly in other events, not Steel Media events, but other events. But you've absolutely kept me riveted all the way through. I think for me, this is less of a question, but I think what you've just kind of come up to at the very end is the fact that these are valuable tools for developers. It's no longer one size fits all. In the ancient history where I started, you had to sell a game for people to play the game. And now developers can utilize all these different types of ads, all these different monetization models in different ways, depending on the game, the genre, the audience, and the overall experience they want to create. And that's, for me, the big takeaway is, developers and designers are going to have to get to grips with the fact that I need to know how this game is going to monetize in order to create that ARPDAU, that LTV, all of the fun things that we know they love. But I just think it opens up so many new opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get my secret sauce recipe that I could just write down and make my next $1 billion game out of this. But I think that's the message, right? You gotta create the right mix. You gotta try it out, and you gotta test and test and test, and that never stops to really maximize the potential of what you're building there. And I think that's a good takeaway for everybody out there.
This is it. I mean, so next time you'll be dialing in from your solid gold yacht next to your own private island and with your own satellite. Listen, folks, we have one question, and the person who's asked it has asked it in the last 3 sessions. And so I'm going to do it. It's hyper specific, but what's the minimum daily installs or DAU and duration of ad campaign to test the ad lifetime value and return on ad spend for a casual game which is 100% ad monetized?
I go Riley or Andrei. Sorry.
I think I can help with that. So I would say that you will see the the meaningful results if you have higher than 5K DAUs and higher than 10K ad requests for your ad entry. Either it's an ad unit or one of the countries that you are buying users from, because if the numbers are lower than that, we are talking about like dollars, singular. Yeah, so it wouldn't make much sense to analyze it.
There we go. So Sai, don't say that Steel Media is not good and responsive to our audience. Thank you very much indeed. I really do appreciate that. Folks, it has been a genuine pleasure. I have learned a huge amount, and I'm sure everybody out there watching and listening has done likewise. So thank you so much, Kai. Bang up job, great hosting. Panelists, thank you all so much for joining in. I know that, you have many other demands on your time, but I really can't say thank you enough for joining us this afternoon. So with that, I will wish you a goodbye and hope to see you again at some point soon. Real World, January, London. We'll make it happen.
Thanks,
Thank you all
Brian. Thanks,
again.
panelists. Thanks, everybody out there. And thank you, Pocket Gamer, for giving us this opportunity.
Always
Really
a pleasure.
appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.